Another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, I have the privilege of coming to you to share some great information about money, life, and everything else. I see on this show that money encompasses everything. So on Wednesdays, when we have an opportunity to discuss a topic that is relevant, it's always awesome. So tonight, I have heard it said that you haven't lived unless you've gone through some really hard times and have overcome challenges, especially for those who have special gifts, talents, and even callings on their lives. They usually have to go through some of the some of the toughest tests in order to win the prize. What is the prize? It's up to you. But tonight we're going to be talking to two ladies who have gone through some of the toughest time in their lives and they've overcome and what seems to have been at the time and so unsurmountable amount of challenges, but they were able to overcome them and reach ultimate goals. So tonight we're going to talk to them. Please tag, share, make a comment, let your friends know that we are here every Wednesday. And Let's Talk Money with Friends is the show for them. Please do not keep us a secret. Share the show, let your friends know, because tonight they want to know why is it important to understand exceptionalities and resilience, because they matter. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my friend who's been on the show tonight. She's been on the show many times, Maggie. I'm going to give Maggie an opportunity to say hello first. And then we have a new friend, Mary, who's going to be introducing herself before we dive into this very important conversation about exceptionalities and resilience matter. Maggie, you go first.
Hi, everyone, and I'm glad to be back again as one of your guests. I'm Magali Penny, and I am loving being back again. So,
Yes, Maggie, thank you so much for coming. You can hear us fine, right, Maggie?
oh yes,
Yeah, okay, great. And Mary, thank you. Welcome. You're here for the
Thank
first
you.
time.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yes, I know we were talking offline. You're an attorney. Why don't you just give a brief description about what you do?
Okay. Thank you. So I'm Mary LaCivita. I own my own law firm in Dedham. I'm a family law attorney, but recently, since 2020, I've taken my pro bono work that I've always done, and I've turned it into exclusively focusing on social justice cases. I'm actually Maggie's co-chair of the Brockton High School Parent Advisory Council. So these are things I bring into the group here and into the talk here.
Yes, definitely. Well, I tell you, I was thinking about a show like this because I had seen a movie, which I think we're going to share a little bit about the movie. And the name of it is Something the Lord Made. And it was a great movie. I was like sharing it with everybody because my sister had shared it with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to share this movie with everybody. And the reason I wanted to share it because exactly exceptionalities and resilience, you have to have both in order for you to succeed in life, right? So why don't we talk about the first question? We say exceptionalities matter. If of course we share the movie, why are some chosen for special calling and are gifted with special gifts? Do we know why? Maggie?
I think it's just I don't know. I don't know if it's an existential thing where we just happen to have special gifts and talents, or if it's something that's more wiring in how we're made. I think in my lifetime, I kind of gravitated towards either, because I've had different seasons in my life where I've been agnostic and I've been, more spiritual and, I don't know. I mean, I just know that the way I am is something that I wasn't always aware of early on. I didn't know why, why I'm here in this way, in this, experience and wiring that I dealt with.
Yeah.
And then as you travel through you learn things, and there's discovery, and there's a journey that takes place. And, sometimes you get the answers spiritually. Sometimes they come to you that way, or others will open your eyes in ways that you might not have thought of prior to. So
Yeah,
maybe it's
I
a
think so.
combination of
No,
those things.
yeah, the question as to why some are chosen and others, chosen for special gifts and chosen for special calling. I think of the fact that, we have the body, right? Even with the movie, it was all about the heart. We have the body. I can go without my finger, right? I'll survive. But my heart, if they have to remove my heart, I'm gone. But it's part of the body. I still need my fingers, but it's not as special. It's not as needed as your heart, right? So how do you feel about that, Mary? Is it why some chose it? Is it just it is the way it is?
Well, I mean, I think there's definitely, when it comes to exceptionalities, I think there's definitely a quality that we can't describe, a God-given quality that you just can't put your finger on. But I think there's more to it than that. I think we all start as a blank slate.
Mhm.
Hope actually not, that's probably not true. At some point we start as a blank slate. And then at some point, whether it's in the womb or afterwards, experiences happen. And I think everyone could be exceptional, and could have exceptionalities, but different circumstances, adverse circumstances, are going to make some people with that God-given unknown quality that are going to rise. They're going to have that resilience and rise above it and stand out. And then other people are just going to sink from it. So it is tough circumstances that tend to create exceptionalities,
Yeah.
as a big piece of it. You never hear anybody who's gone really far, and really is very exceptional without some tough circumstances behind it.
Correct. So that's definitely the next question. In terms of like, why is it important to know that in addition to your gifts and your exceptional talents, that being resilient is also an important part of it, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think it's because life is a journey, it's not static. You can be doing great, and you can be very, have exceptionalities, but you're going to run into challenges that being super smart or super talented is not going to be enough to get you through, unless you have that endurance, that resilience to carry out and keep going on the journey. So gifts and talent alone are definitely not enough to.
Yeah, Maggie, I just heard you say, Mary, that we all born with a clean slate. But I also believe that some people, yes, some people are just innately gifted. And I think those of us who are around those people, it's very important to understand, again, like the body being like many different parts, but there are some parts that are extremely more important. And for me, someone who extremely gifted, innately gifted, born like this, they are gonna show up differently in the world. And
Yes.
sometimes those who are not as gifted might think, oh, how come this person? So what do you say about that, Maggie? Do you think you just need to honor and respect and kind of work with those who are gifted?
Well, mine is an interesting story. I spent most of my life thinking that I was kind of alienated, but I didn't understand the whys that were involved with it. So, many times, I would perform or achieve or have a sense of things that depended on the situations I was in. It depended on support, resources, being nurtured. Adversity sometimes, necessitated, pulling or tapping into your strengths. So I feel like what Mary had said, initially she's like, you're born with a clean slate, but how can you be born with it when you're not necessarily cognizant until you're cognizant as you grow and you develop? And so I spent a lot of my times thinking I was average or sometimes above average.
Mhm.
And then life, and a series of unfortunate events occurred
Yes.
to change my perception
Yeah.
and my knowledge and my acceptance of myself and my wiring. And
Mhm.
so it was more of a like a latent emergence of 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 realization as opposed to, knowing innately that, I didn't know why until I
Hmm.
knew why.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that clean slate is where, you come into yourself as an individual in your own self-awareness, and that clean slate grows as you develop and then you grow older, and your situations change, and you grow up and you grow, and then you realize um, that there are reasons why things may be the way they are.
Different from you. I know we were saying offline, like when you said that you don't know you were born this way, and sometimes you just like going through life unaware of your gifts and your talents, right? And we
Right.
were saying like a lot, everybody here knows that I'm a believer and I do read the Bible, and that story of Joseph, or even the story of David, not knowing as youngsters, they just were having certain dreams, but they didn't know that they had special gifts for greatness. They just knew that something was different, because I usually ask my friends and my family, I'm like, how come out of all the children that Jacob had, Joseph was the one chosen to be exceptional, right? So I know you both are familiar with the educational system, and I know especially Maggie, she's played big roles in the educational system in her town, in her city. So I know when we talk about education, exceptionality, it has a double meaning. Can you explain that? Either one of you, Maggie or Mary, explain the difference when we say a child is exceptional. It has a double meaning, right? So
But
can you explain that?
yeah, absolutely. Well, exceptional means, you have to have the rule to have the exception. And while we've been talking about exceptionalities in terms of being, gifted,
Yeah,
it's not always that way.
yeah,
It can be a child with disabilities.
all right.
So there are different gifts, but they might not necessarily be high achieving gifts.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just, I think anybody who's sort of exceptional from the norm, in the educational setting, I think, would you agree with that, Maggie?
Yeah, I'd have to say yes, because um, I've had conversations with people who went to different schools than I did and had different
Mhm.
backgrounds than I did. And, you know, your family life um, and your support system or lack thereof
Yep.
can, impact that exceptionality, whether you think of it as being a positive thing or a
Mhm.
negative thing, whether you
Right.
think of it as a weakness or a strength,
All right.
and sometimes those things can switch off,
Mhm.
something, some abilities that you might have that have been typically used as strengths can, in the wrong or different environment, become like a curse, become a bad thing, a negative.
Mhm.
So when you say that there is a duality to the exceptionalities, I think it really depends on who you're talking to,
Mhm.
and what their perception is, or even when we're thinking about ourselves,
Mhm.
because I can say that on the one hand, there are certain things that I use, certain strengths that I have to overcompensate for my weaknesses, were things that um, helped. But if they're masking the weaknesses, then you're missing a piece, of of you know um, information. Um, if you have weaknesses, and they're masking your strengths,
Mhm.
those weaknesses can seem overwhelmingly negative. But if you don't even know that there's a strength being, masked by that weakness, it's like, hidden. And I
Yeah.
think that's where, when the duality of exceptionalities, it's hidden. A lot of people think it's one end or the other, one extreme or the other. But sometimes it depends, and the pendulum swings. It can vacillate from one end to the other, depending on what you're dealing with and how you're
Yeah.
using your abilities, if you're aware and even cognizant that you have them in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would agree. On this show, we say money encompasses everything. And the reason we're having this conversation is because we know your exceptionalities, your gifts, your talents could really catapult you into greater, I don't know, places, higher places. Again, we said, overcoming with resilience, you can achieve higher heights. But in order for you to do that, you have to be able to be around people who can acknowledge and help you hone those skills. Again, going back to the stories we were talking about, here's Joseph as a child having gifts and perhaps recognizing a little bit, but he had to go through some of the toughest times. For those who are familiar with that story, he went to, he was sent away from his family, like separation, isolation, right? He went to having to be working at somebody's home where he was almost molested and accused and being lied about. And then he ended up in prison where he didn't deserve to be in jail, but he was there because somebody had lied. But of course, all that was happening. He went through all those challenges so that he could get to his final destination of being the second in command with the king. So I want to ask you the story. I love it because it resonates with me. I'm always thinking about it and meditated on it. Let me ask you, what are some of the ways have you embraced your exceptionalities and resilience? Give us a story. We want to hear about what you've gone through personally. Mary, go ahead.
Well, so I think I'm 51 years old, so I've had a number of challenges.
Yeah.
But sort of a more recent challenge that I can think of is that I represented a man who Maggie knows because we both live in the same town. His name is John Williams. This is all public record. He was an activist here in Brockton, still is an activist here in Brockton. And he, the brief background to this story, I ended up representing him in a case that some not so good people in power, let's say, here in Brockton, decided to put on him. He was wrongfully accused. The evidence, which they suppressed until after his arraignment, of course, showed clearly he was innocent. They accused him of assault. There was an assault, but he was the one that was assaulted. So that was a challenge. Because the DA, who our Plymouth County DA, everybody knows he's racist and he's handles unlawful prosecutions. Definitely not afraid to say that. So there was a lot of pressure, and they're supposed to work with you on these cases. They're supposed to be, exchange of information and things like that. And that didn't occur, and they were not shy about it. So how did I overcome that? I overcame that the way I overcame many things, which was to basically learn that case inside and out and be a perfectionist. So I think I'm not sure if I mentioned I own my own law practice, but I handled divorce and paternities. I did not know, I'd never practiced in district court on a criminal case before. I spoke with criminal attorneys. I read manuals. I read everything I could possibly learn so that I would know it inside and out, so that I could basically just attack this. So in the face of them really being quite nasty a lot of times, to my client, they were very, very horrible. They sent police to his home. All sorts of horrible things happened. But in my case, I thought, okay, I'm a white woman. They're not going to come to my house on the west side and do anything to me. But they did a number of things that they tried professionally, and I killed them with perfection.
Yeah.
And, you know, given that I knew the evidence was in my favor, I just had to put all that out of my head and just sort of plow through it. And, you know, also a lot of times in situations, adverse situations, you get a lot of gaslighting. You're second guessing yourself because they're trying to make you feel crazy. There was a lot of that here.
Yeah.
And self-care and just thinking, wait a minute, I've done this for 23 years. I may not have done this kind before, but I've been in a courtroom for 23 years. I know I can do this. And sticking with that and knowing my gift, just transferred it to this setting and I blew him away.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
was found not guilty, of
Oh,
course.
great, congratulations. Amazing, amazing, because you know, sometimes you don't know what you're made of until you are faced with adversities that you never
Yes.
thought. I know for me, I have a similar story. It's court related, but let's hear from Magali. Maybe I'll share a little bit of my saga, how I became stronger than I ever thought I could be. But go ahead, Magali.
Yeah, this is, you know, contrary to Mary's example. Mine is earlier in life. We're actually around the same age, you know, and that
The
it
club.
makes sense because she and I have clicked
Yes.
so like well, like almost instantly after, you know, getting into a communicative dialogue. But mine is from when I was younger. My family came here from Haiti. They immigrated here, and I'm first generation American born. And in the household, there was native language, Haitian Creole, and my babysitters were Cape Verdean Creole, and I'm in school, preschool, kindergarten, learning English. And so there was an issue where the strengths were I could understand everybody. At one time, I was able to fluently understand, you know, whether it
Wow.
was my family, whether it was in the academic or preschool environment, or whether it was my babysitter, you know, speaking Cape Verdean Creole. I could understand them, but they could not understand me. So I was multilingual in as far as receiving the information, but I was not able to get that information out so that, you know, anybody could understand, because I was mixing everything up when it came to the output. You know, I could receive it, but I couldn't, you know, put it out. And because of our upbringing, not really being the typical American upbringing, when my mom took me out of the preschool, kindergarten, daycare situation, and started to try to enroll me in private parochial schools, those same strengths that helped me understand multiple people depending on who I was with kind of kicked me in the butt, because I wound up failing an entrance exam in kindergarten to get into this school, because there were like colloquialisms and examples that I couldn't tap into. My family and I never went camping, so I don't know what about camping paraphernalia. There was no cultural responsive, you know, examples that I could draw on from a young age so that I could perform well, you know, in you know, my, you know, English language, and be able to understand why, you know, I was choosing the wrong answers and failing to get into it. Needless to say, my mom, who was more fluent, of course, in her native tongue than English. She's still learning English. She's actually going to Brockton High to learn English as a second language. She took the setback of me not getting into that school and failing that test, and she took me to another school, a similar school, but a different school, not her first choice. And she did everything in her power to advocate for me and support me with a principal that she could barely speak English with.
Wow.
But she made her case for me. And in this environment, which did not require an entrance exam, you know, of any proportion, I thrived,
Hmm.
you know, but those initial strengths of being multilingual, I had to sacrifice 2 of those 3 languages so that other people could understand me, and I could,
Okay.
push through in socially and as well as academically. And now it's just the English.
I know, I know. I try to speak Creole with Maggie, and she's like, no, no comprendo. Sometimes we talk about language justice on the show, and sometimes folks are saying, how come you don't speak a language? How come you don't? Not everybody has the strength to kind of become multilingual. So, multilingual. So
Very
it's very
true.
important to respect. Like I know English
Yeah.
is the only language she's proficient at. I'm not gonna try to speak Creole to Maggie because I know, yes, she's Haitian. She identifies, she respects the fact that she's, what is it, Haitian born American? But
Yes.
at the end of the day,
I'm a Haitian American, African American, Afro Latina,
you're everything. You're everything.
West Indian,
So going back
Caribbean,
again to our
Caribbean
topic for
woman,
the day, for
That's a
those who are
lot.
here
human
for the
being.
first time, I just want to let you know that every Wednesday I have the privilege of coming here, and we want to have dialogues, conversation that I feel like truly relevant and timely, because this conversation is so important to understand that there are some of us, and there are many, including your own children, who are gifted. They have exceptional skills and talent, and many times that it's hard to discover that, right? To uncover that, and at the same time, too, in order for you to really succeed, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you do have to be resilient. Resilience is very important in order for you to achieve. Let me tell you, I have a family member who calls me all the time, Mary, and Magali, saying like, oh my gosh, I'm at work and they're taking credit for everything that I'm doing. It's just like things comes very naturally to her, and she's able to kind of come up with ideas. And of course, her manager and people at work are taking credit because she's at a lower level in terms of like her position. And also too, in the movie we saw, and I would encourage everybody to go see that movie. It's online for free. It's Something the Lord Made. And it's about this young man who was very talented. He never went to school, but he became a heart surgeon in a nutshell. Never went to school for it, and he was a heart surgeon. You're talking about exceptionalities, right?
Yeah.
Exceptional. But at the same time, too, he was under a doctor, and I feel like good and bad because the doctor kind of guided him. He got private education. He never went to medical school, but he got private education in medicine. But at the same time, too, in the movie, several of the credits that he should have gotten went to somebody else, to the doctor and other people. So what do you do when you are someone who's exceptional? You have resilience, you are working hard, and yet you're not being recognized, whether it is through promotion, salary, or just being like being given an opportunity to get, did I say promotion and salary? You doing the work and everybody else is doing the credit, and you sitting there. When do you know it's time to fight, or when do you know to lean back? Because your gift, it's another scripture, your gift will make room for you. When do you know when it's time to lean back, and when do you know it's time to fight, knowing that your gift will make room for you? What do you think, Mary?
Well, I think a lot of times it comes with sort of what Maggie was touching on at the beginning of our conversation. Is there the blank slate, but then you have to have self-awareness. I think the older we get, and for some people it comes at different ages, you have enough self-awareness to think something like, I know I could do that guy's job. Wait, I've been doing that guy's job, and he's taking all the credit for it. At some point you get a confidence level that says, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go out and, take a different direction, whether it's getting a different job or, as I did. I was working for one particular attorney who wasn't nearly as good at me at what I was doing at our firm. And I suddenly got some confidence and said, why don't I just open up my own firm? I don't need to work underneath this guy and have him take all the credit. So definitely self-awareness, I think, plays a big part in when you can take a step further and, stop facing somebody who's trying to keep your gifts down or take credit for it.
Yeah. Yeah, they will hold you down, especially it's so funny how sometimes you gifted and you don't even know that you gifted because you like just like Joseph, la la la, you are in la la land, right? Everything
Right.
comes very easily for you, like ideas and things that others are petrified to do, you are able to do it nonchalantly, right? And
Right.
yet you don't get the promotion because they see your gift but they'll take credit. What do you do? I mean, because it's all based on economic, right? The
Mhm.
economics of all of it. Because if you don't get the promotion, you don't get the pay, and you ended up getting stuck. Unless you do believe that your gift will make room for you, right, Maggie?
Right. To answer, um, I think my answer is kind of an evolving answer because I think in addition to the self-awareness, um, you know, it- there's an intuition that many times women second guess their intuition. And I feel
Hmm.
like that
Yes.
is a gift from God, an innate gift
Mhm.
Correct.
from God. And I knew as a parent, because my mother fought so hard for my education, where the trajectory could have been, oh wow, I failed this entrance exam and I'm a failure and I'm stupid. I don't know anything.
Hmm.
And she, with limited, you know, you know, linguistic abilities and resources, working three jobs, she did what she could to put me into a better situation. And once I was in that better situation, I was able to thrive.
Hmm.
When I became a parent, I remembered what she did for me. And I had decided, that, we with our kids, we were not going to limit our kids. And, even if we lived in an urban, economically depressed city, which is, kind of working middle class at best, that if other suburbs and other towns that were affluent or whatever could do things and have enrichment and programming for their kids and opportunities and resources and access, ain't no way my kids won't have it either. It was
Hmm.
kind of like a shift from what my mom did. My mom felt like she had no choice but to fight and to scrape and to do it. Whereas
Correct.
me, because of what she allowed for me, I had an option. I had a choice where I could be like, if they can, so can I. And that was the attitude I did when I was researching programs and opportunities for my own kids. Flash forward, my husband and I had observed gifts and talents, but we couldn't quite put our finger, like nail what it was about our kids that we were observing. But we were noticing things about them, things about their wiring, their creativity and their innovative skills, and just the naturally um, um, aptitudes that they had. And you know, in Brockton, we have what's called a talented and gifted program. And I believe Mary's son was in that
Yes.
program as
He was
well.
in that when he was younger. Yeah.
All three of my kids were invited and accepted into that program. And the reason how I found out is because other people from other towns and other places knew about the program that was in my own city that I did not know about. So had I not had the wherewithal to be like, if they can, I can too, and ask questions and be around people that might have more information and be open to receiving that information, my kids might have not had that opportunity. Flash forward even further, finding out that they are talented, they are gifted, going through all the assessments and such. In 2015, I was heading home from work on a Friday. Couldn't wait to get home and have my little drink. It's Friday, right? Long week,
Yep.
hard week,
Yep.
right? Well, on my way on the commute, I was rear-ended. A truck collided with my little sedan,
Oh.
and as a result of that accident, I wound up with a concussion. It was not my
Hmm.
first concussion, but it was the worst concussion. And after having noticing symptoms that I had not noticed before, actually, it turned out I had disabilities, and they came out as they were exacerbated by the concussion that was
Hmm.
caused by this car accident that I had no way of knowing this was going to happen, but
Wow.
it happened.
Right.
And so in
Wow.
going through my assessments or planning, making, because I needed to do something, I had to go on medication, cognitive medication, not
Oh,
knowing
wow.
why, but knowing I had to do something. So I was, taking over the counter type medications.
Mhm.
And I had wound up getting a phone call from one of my best friends across the country. And she had heard about the accident. And her oldest, who is my goddaughter, is dyslexic. And we went into conversation, and I was giving her, the rundown on my symptoms. And I asked her, I says, you know what? How is it? I know these things are hereditary and they're genetic. Where did Michaela get her dyslexia from? I'm assuming it's from her husband. Now,
Right.
this is someone I lived with for 2 years, who I roomed with in college, who I've known for 30 years, who I went to high school with. And she's like, Maggie, she got it from me. And I'm like, what? She's
Wow.
dyslexic, and I had known her for decades, and I never knew because she
Wow.
had strengths, and those strengths were masking the weaknesses.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that put a light bulb in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, my kids were already identified at this point with both disabilities and strengths, otherwise known as twice exceptional. So going
Hmm.
back to that whole duality you were referring to, Gabrielle, they were exceptionally on one end with the
Mhm.
weaknesses and exceptional on the upper end with the strengths.
Correct.
And I
Wow.
realized that maybe both profiles are coming from me. And when I went through my battery of assessments, I found out I had superior, like above average, as part of the testing. Never knew. Flew under the radar.
Wow.
Nobody ever identified me,
Wow. Sometimes, so
nothing.
sometimes you
That's
don't know. Sometimes you don't know what you have, and you
I
don't
don't know.
know. Yeah, you don't know. Like I was saying, like when I was sharing this movie with you, the idea of fighting. Sometimes when you have your gifts and you have to fight, going through the hardship so that you can get to the other, to the other side. And sometimes you have to lean back because again, in the movie, he's the guy who's gifted, heart surgeon, never went to school for that, but he decided to lean back and not fight for recognition and for all that stuff, although he fought for other things. Whereas his brother, right, in the movie was a teacher and he wanted to fight for his wages. Like he felt like, black teachers were not getting paid enough and he would go and fight and he raised like 12 years. The movie was saying like 12 years they fought for wage equality. He fought with, the against the Board of Education so that black teachers could get the same thing. So going back again to a question that I had, what are some of the ways, like, can you take up one short story, Maggie or Mary, like some of the ways you feel like you've been held back, but you still, like a story. I know for me, let me just share this. I meant to share it earlier today in terms of like, um, like knowing that in order for you to become who you are today, you have to go through. I was faced with a situation that I never thought I would be facing with in terms of like a financial crisis. And when I presented all possible solutions to these particular people, they decided, no, they're not gonna, they're not gonna make it easy on me. They were gonna punish me. It's almost like, Obama had the book, The Audacity of Hope.
yes.
I
Yes.
had the audacity to be who I am today. And there's like, no, 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 no. You cannot have such audacity. And they were going to punish me for having had hope, for having had dreams. Just like, Joseph's brother was saying, like, let me do this to him and see what becomes of his dreams, right?
Yeah.
So I never knew I had it in me. the strength that I've gained through that adversity, I've been able not only to help myself, but able to pay it forward in helping other people. So my question, because it's already 7:42, I want to find out what are some of the challenges that you've gone through and how have you been able to use that strength to pay it forward? And I know you just mentioned your story with your kids, but outside of your family, what are some of the ways? I know for me, every single day, I've used the strength that I've gained through that adversity to help my community and help my neighbors. How have you done that, Mary?
I can definitely speak to that. So the case that I was talking about earlier wasn't the first case like that that I took on. One of the things for me when I got sworn into the bar, I can still remember the ceremony and just how I don't know, it was very special.
All
You know,
right.
swear an oath to the Constitution and all these things. And they talk to you so much about giving back, but there's no requirement in Massachusetts to do that as an attorney.
Mm.
But I took from the start, I need to give back. So I'd always done that in different forms, but it was something they call lawyer for the day. You help out at the courthouse for a day, giving legal advice in little bits and stuff. I'd helped, a battered women's program representing people. So I'd done different things. They all felt good, like I was giving back, but it was honestly when George Floyd was murdered, I decided to myself that I lawyer for the day, there's plenty of people that are always going to be there to do that. I want to give back to my community and specifically help people of color in situations where they've been wrong. So instead of, volunteering here and there throughout the year, what I have done, and Mr. Williams' case was the third case I had taken on, I'm always looking for a different case where it is, the first one I handled was a murder appeal. Had to learn all about that. Then there was a guy who was actually, this one might actually make me shed some tears. The second case I took on was for a friend of mine who was exonerated after serving 30 years for a murder he didn't commit. He has friends still on the inside, and he had a friend who was wrongfully accused in prison. So had I not stepped in, he was going to lose 14 months of time where he would just be getting out this year. Once I won his case, and the perfection we did in preparing for this.
Yeah.
When we showed up to that hearing, the magistrate who was there in the prison system, he knew from the look on my face and from the paperwork I had that I was going to go on for days until he gave us the decision we wanted. So after 2 hours, he said, all right, I've heard enough. Not guilty, all this stuff. So he gets out. So just yesterday, actually, that fellow sent me a picture of his daughter, who was born in July, that, when I went to the baby shower, I thought, had I not stepped in and done this baby wouldn't even be born. And that's making a difference in my community because he's such a good man and was so wrongfully confused. So that's the kind of thing that, it's a lot of work for one result, for one family. But I think sometimes that's how you make a difference.
Correct. And you cannot have that heart of empathy to give back if you haven't gone through anything. I know for a long time, I thought I was a giver until I had to go through it. It was good for me. Do you hear that, you people who are watching? It was good for me to have been afflicted because my affliction and my hardship and my disappointment made me the person that I am today. Someone who cares much more about community than I used to be before. So what about you, Maggie? Was it good for you to have been afflicted?
I hate to burst your bubble, but I have to go a little bit into the family situation because it was my kids being identified that led to me being identified. I flew under the radar for years. For years. I underachieved because of it. So there were opportunities that were not made known to me as a student of color that I look back and I'm like, there's no way that's going to happen to my kids.
Mm.
There were situations, the strengths and the weaknesses around my twice exceptionalities that, the impulsive nature wound
Mhm.
up putting me into very adverse situations, life and death situations where I fell victim to domestic abuse. And when 20 years later, I'm finding out why I am impulsive, there's an actual reason why I had done, like acted in the ways that I had,
Mhm.
why I had issues that impacted that um, abusive relationship. That knowledge of why, having those answers, you know, and then circling back to, being able to, you know, provide different opportunities for my own kids. That's what led to my volunteering, actually.
Correct.
I volunteered more as a parent than I did in all the years that I wasn't. And one of my earliest advocacies was for Love Life Now Foundation, which I know
Mm.
you're aware of, Gabrielle,
Correct.
because I know now why I was susceptible to a narcissist.
Mhm.
And I know why, I have, this disability and why I have this other, you know, um,
Yeah.
cognitive profile.
Correct.
And so I would volunteer, I would give back to the community. I would also write for the community because I felt like as a young mother, what could I do with the bandwidth that I had to give back to my community? I used my skills, my talents to write for the community.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had a Brockton Parents Magazine, which is now called South Shore Community Magazine, where I was able to tap into volunteering, my skills, my talents, giving back to the community.
Mhm.
Once I learned more about my kids' profiles, I wound up being empowered, getting more information, being knowledgeable, having the research, and I wound up finding out about massgifted.org, which is the Massachusetts Association for Gifted Education. They saw
Correct.
how eager and excited I was, and they offered me a position as a board director for that
Correct.
organization.
Oh,
And through
wow.
that opened more doors to opportunity and giving back to my community, especially where it comes from, with families that don't, where they could quite conceivably fly under the radar as well.
Correct.
In
Yeah.
communities such as mine. So I'm
Yeah.
an advocate in so many ways. I volunteer. I've been able to give back because of being affirmed that there
Correct.
was a reason why I
Yeah.
am the way I am, in the good and the bad. And that affliction, I was able to come out of that through the other side, as a survivor. And,
Right.
that was the catalyst for other things, why I ran for school committee, Southeastern.
Yeah.
Because, if
Definitely.
I'm hearing a situation where there's other Black girls that are being victimized, but
Correct.
everybody seems to not be really thinking about them. And I know I was that person.
Yeah.
What can I
Definitely.
do to help, you know,
Mhm.
um, you know, make things a little bit more, you know, safe for other families? You
Yeah.
know, I can try, maybe I can fill that gap, and use my experiences to forge ahead.
Yeah. Definitely. If you haven't gone through, we said at the very top of the hour here, um, if you have not gone through, you really don't know what it takes to overcome, and you don't know what it takes to get to the other side. In order for you to get to that other side, where it's either the mountaintop, where you are someone who's qualified to give back to community, you have to have gone through something. And I think we had mentioned that the title of today's show is Exceptionalities and Resilience. Exceptionalities in the education form means, has you say duality, means exceptionally gifted, but also too could be someone who has some disabilities. So it's very important to understand that, yeah, it means it has a double meaning. And at the end of the day, if you are someone, let's say we have someone who's watching this show and saying like, you know what, my kids have gone through what Maggie is talking about. I've had hard times, they're exceptional in that way. Or you have someone who's looking and saying like, you know what, I feel like I have special gifts and I'm gifted, but doors are closing and I'm not able to push through. What would you say to someone right now who's gasping for air either way? What would you encourage them to do?
I would, no, you go ahead, Maggie. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Gary, and then
Mary and I,
Okay.
in the series, in a few weeks, have actually tapped in what we can do. We
Correct.
advocate as parents, as residents, as community members for families in our city through our work and our mission and our
Yeah.
vision with the school site council that we're
Yeah.
both co-chairs of.
Yeah.
I
But
feel like
my
it's a
question was,
full
if
circle
someone
situation.
who's going through right now and they're going through personally and they're gasping for air, they're talented and doors are closing because of folks not supporting at work, they're getting taken advantage of, and they want to fight. What do you say to someone who has gifts and those gifts they're not able to materialize them now? We know exceptionalities and resilience matter. What would you say to someone who's watching right now, who's going through that as we speaking?
You
Mary?
matter.
You want me to speak up? Oh, that's a very good. Well, you matter. I think I would say be kind to yourself. And I mean, be kind to yourself, not in, taking a $10,000 vacation, not sort of masking it, because a lot of times society tells us, oh, be kind to yourself. You deserve this expensive thing or whatever. Sometimes that helps, but I mean, be kind to yourself. Focus on being thoughtful, because I find when you're really, really down and you give thought to what it is you're doing, even if you make a choice that turns out bad, you strengthen your own confidence in yourself. And you say, you know what, I messed up, but I really thought it out. I probably wouldn't have done it any different. Sometimes bad things happen, but I know that I'm living in a thoughtful manner. So I'm going to be kind to myself and not beat myself up. That sort of, the older I've gotten, the more that I've practiced that, the more I've been able to do, because we beat ourselves up more than anybody else does at times. We really do. And I think if you can be kind to yourself and stop beating yourself up, that releases you in a way to get through the adversity and, get to where the doors are opening up again. So absolutely be kind to yourself, I would say.
Yeah, be kind to yourself. What about you, Magali? What would you say?
I feel like we can mentor and guide others through what we've gained and our wisdom, what we've been able to be blessed with as a result. And that fulfillment, I think Mary was alluding to, doesn't have to be in that vacation. It can be in giving back, in doing what we're doing. For these
getting gratitude.
These kids in Brockton, where we live, are getting, they are suffering big time.
Yes.
They're suffering through no faults of their own. Because life is hard. And life in their 9-hour day environment is extremely challenging and hard.
Right.
And so the two of us can say, look at us, we're here for you. We have come out on the other side. We know what it was like to have struggles. Let us model that for you. Let us help you. Let us help other parents help you. By arming them with resources and information that can increase everybody's quality of life, where they feel fulfillment and worth and self-value.
Correct. I like this topic because exceptionalities and resilience matter. And I do believe, again, to whom much is given, much is required. You are not able to give if you haven't been given anything. And I think your gifts, your talents, they're gifts, but also your challenges are gifts to you as well. The hardships that you've gone through are gifts to you as well, because once you've been able to master and gone through the pain, the growing pain, right? You are able to pay it forward by saying to someone, I love the fact that, Maggie, you say encouraging somebody else, mentor somebody else. This morning I was at a meeting with someone and she's pulling her hair, and I'm like, honey, don't pull your hair. This too shall pass. I've been here, done that, and I know if you keep the faith, just don't give up. So I would encourage someone who has gifts and talents and they feel like life is throwing them lemons. What you need to do is make lemonade, as they say, right? Make lemonades and surround yourself with people who can empower you. Perhaps I was saying to someone earlier today, maybe the job is not the place for you to get all the empowerment that you need. If you feel like you're getting there, taking advantage of, you're not being recognized, or even not getting the pay, that doesn't mean you cannot maximize your own potential outside of that environment. Find another place, find a community organization, find another environment to give back to and to really hone your skills and do what you love best. You know, I love to do this. I love to communicate. I'm someone who's always loved to communicate, and I know it's a gift because not everybody likes
Yes.
it. So if
That is right.
and I love to do it, it's a gift. And I know there are times in certain environments it wasn't welcome. So what I do, I found Facebook live. So please, so please, I will encourage you to like, share, and make a comment. Let your friends know that on Wednesdays we have really relevant conversations, timely and pertinent information that you can share, that you can use, that can really change your life. Don't keep us a secret, you know, don't keep us a secret. Share with your friends, let them know, because I feel like the conversation we just had today can really help somebody and will really help not only you who's watching, but also your friend. Let them know, share it, send it to them, give them, you know, just like I shared that movie, please go watch Something the Lord Made. Something the Lord Made. Actually, I'll post it online. Something the Lord made a difference for me, and I wanted to share with everybody. I shared it with everybody that I know, including Maggie, and I know Maggie paid it forward by sending it to Mary, right? So
Yes.
do that, encourage one another, build each other up. And yeah, anything else, ladies, before we say goodnight to everyone tonight?
I just want to thank you for being able to talk to your audience, because I think this kind of a podcast, this kind of a sharing of information and communication, this is how we all grow as a community. You know, whether that's a Facebook community or a land community, this is how we give back and help other people grow, and it's just wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for being here today. And what about you?
Yeah, I think the
Maggie.
process of discovery that comes with adult grown conversations like what we've had today,
Yes.
people can, you know, whoever sees this, people who know us or find out about the three of us are going to be like, oh man, I would have never thought
Correct.
that, you know, Mary, Gabriella, and Maggie had a hard time, but we did, and we just untold you.
Yeah, I just don't look like what I've been through. Trust me, I just do not. I had actually prayed about it. I said, Lord, I don't want to look like what I've been through. You better come correct. I told him to come correct, and he came correct. Look at that, Mary. I'll tell you how old I am, Mary, offline. We don't look like what we've been through.
Yeah. Oh, I shouldn't have said my age.
I know. Oh no,
No, I was surprised.
we part of the similar club. Thank you so much for everyone. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful, grateful. And that's the reason why I paid forward. And I'm so happy that Magali suggested this topic, you know, and I'm so glad, Mary, you were able to stop your all the hard work I know you're doing as an attorney to be on the show for now. I take this very seriously, and I'm so grateful for my friends, my guests who come on the show every single week. Please, if you are someone who's watching and you have an idea, call me, because we're always ready to talk about things that are important, things that can change, topics that will change lives and communities. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a blessed night. Tag, share, make a comment. And yes, be blessed.